What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about UK postcodes and how they might be better than the zip codes that we use here in the United States. So, as an American, I really have no idea what a postcode is or how it works in the UK. I assume it is a way to specify where you live or what your address is, much like how zip codes work here in the United States. But the point of this video and the stance that this person has taken is that she thinks UK postcodes are better. It's a better system, and I have no idea. So I'm going to go into this with an open mind, and I'm just also very curious to learn about a different type of postal system and address system. So that should be quite interesting for me as well. So with that being said, let's take a look.
Now let's start with the differences in naming. Essentially, we are talking about a similar idea. We all know a postcode or zip code comes at the end of an address for further specification and sorting.
Okay, okay. I mean, I wasn't exactly sure. I assume these are very, very similar. Like zip codes in the United States are 5 digits. Is that the same as a UK postcode? And does it usually come at the end of your address? Like, how similar are these exactly?
In the UK, it's called a postcode or postal code, and in the US, it's called a zip code.
That's another thing. When I saw the title of this video, UK postcodes, I actually had to look that up. I had to Google what is a postcode, because that is not a term that we even use in America here. We just say zip code. I guess maybe I would understand postal code, but that's very, very formal. We call it a zip code, so that's a difference right there as well.
Which also stands for Zone Improvement Plan, which, to be honest, I bet most Americans don't know. Zip was also chosen in the US to indicate a zipping of the mail, traveling faster when you use the code in the postal address. But these codes are actually quite different. Firstly, in the number of homes, residents, or land it covers. In the UK, we often can tell each other directions by simply putting in the postcode. I can type it into my GPS and be taken to the correct street, probably within just a few houses of the exact one I want.
Really? No kidding. That is a massive difference. That is so interesting. You can type in your postcode into like Google Maps or something, and it's going to take you basically to the street that you live on or the street that you're looking for. That is so specific. That's actually great. That actually is really convenient, especially compared to in the United States. Our zip codes are like huge amounts of area, like many, many neighborhoods worth of streets and houses. Our zip codes are really, really big. Like, it's a big area. If you live in the same zip code as someone, you don't have that good of an idea of where exactly they're located. Wow, I never knew that.
I will ultimately need the exact number of the house to make sure I do knock on the right door, but I don't need to type in the full address to get there. Postcodes in the UK cover an average of about 15 homes each, but it can be as few as 1 or up to a maximum of about 100, which is for much larger cities.
Wow, that seems so much better. There must be so many postcodes then, because in a given city or region of the United States, there's not like that. There's a lot of zip codes, but there's not that many. This makes it sound like there's hundreds of postcodes, right? Like in a given area, by the sound of it.
Standard zip codes in the US, on the other hand, cover much, much larger areas.
Yeah.
There's one zip code in central Alaska that covers 13,431 square miles.
Yeah.
The zip code I grew up in covers 17,696 houses.
Yeah.
They're all in the same area, so they're all grouped together. But you're not going to just type in the zip code and use it as directions unless you want to make 17,000 new friends, probably enemies actually, while looking for the exact house that you want.
No, exactly correct. You would never just use a zip code to find someone's home. That would be silly. Wow, but a postcode, you could like just give them your postcode and say like, oh, my house looks like this. I don't know why you wouldn't just give them the number, but for argument's sake, I'm just saying there's not that many houses in a postcode. So it's really quite a unique number to you. Wow, and your street. Okay.
So in the US, we don't think of zip codes in the same way that people think of postcodes in the UK.
Yeah.
Because the UK version actually allows you to pinpoint streets and areas and be way more specific without needing to type out the entire address.
Wow.
Your postcode is much more unique to you in the UK and it gives us much more information. The UK postcode, on the other hand, is alphanumeric with
Okay, here we go. This is what I want to know about. The UK side of things. I have no idea what a UK postcode looks like at all. Okay.
which means it has letters and numbers.
Oh.
It is divided into two chunks. The first chunk, I've just come up with the term chunk, that's not the official term, but the first chunk is the outward code, and it has...
This is not what I was expecting. Really? What an interesting format. This must be so funny to people in the UK, because it's like, this must be so normal to you? I've never seen... This is, it's got 2 sections, 4 characters, and then 3? And they all mean something. Okay.
has between 2 and 4 characters, and this shows the post town, which helps initially get the mail to the right post office.
It's between 2 and 4 characters. The outcode, this first set of characters, it can be between 2 and 4. That makes it even more different. Wow, okay.
The second chunk always has 3 characters and points to a small group of addresses in that post town, as mentioned, usually an average of about 15, but definitely much smaller than US zip codes.
Okay.
This is for internal use among the local post office and begins with the number and then has 2 letters after.
So, if you live in an area, you probably all in the same city have the same outcode? Or the first set of characters, that 2, 3, or 4 first characters are usually the same for everybody in the area. And then the encode, the 3 characters at the end, those will change a lot based on exactly where you live. Okay.
Among the local post office and begins with the number and then has 2 letters after.
Okay.
The first letters, the postcode areas, are usually named for a major town or city. So it's B for Birmingham or G for Glasgow, but sometimes they get a little bit different and are named after smaller areas or an area further away.
That makes sense. It's literally named after the area you live in, like taking the first letter from the city that you're in? That makes a lot of sense. I'm already starting to think that the UK postcode makes more sense than the United States zip code. Like, it works here in America, it works, but it doesn't seem like the optimal way to do it now that I hear about this.
For instance, LL covers most of North Wales, which has plenty of places without an LL in its name. And there's a wide area in Buckinghamshire, including places like Aylesbury and High Wycombe, that have HP postcodes, which is the Hemel Hempstead postcode. This is the main sorting office for the area, but of course, these places, Aylesbury, High Wycombe, many that have the HP postcode don't actually have an H and a P in them.
So the first part, the letters, are usually the same as well in your area. and then the numbers after that change a lot. Is that right?
And London is actually broken up into postcodes based on a compass, so you'll get E for east, NW for northwest, SE for southeast, and so forth.
It's also cool that you can kind of look at a postcode, and if you know what you're doing a little bit, you can kind of decipher a lot of information just looking at the postcode. Like looking at a postcode of someone in London, just looking at it with your eyes and not searching it on the internet. You could like figure out, what direction they are, north, south, east, or west, and stuff like that. And maybe even if you memorize all the numbers, you could like know exactly where they are, maybe.
Now let's talk a little bit about how these codes came about, starting with the US. The year is 1943, and many postal clerks are going into the army. Suddenly, an influx of inexperienced postal clerks join, and they need a way to more easily sort the mail without needing the time it takes to learn the delivery area of each city. So the United States Post Office Department implemented postal zones for 178 large cities, though at this point they aren't 5 digits yet. Decades later
we literally just created like zip codes for American postal workers that needed things to be easier because they didn't want to like memorize the current system or postal codes at the time. Is that basically right? Is that why our zip code system seems like kind of rushed, or I don't know, just not that well thought out, to be honest? It's not like it was just made to quickly help people who were joining the American Postal Service during war figure out how to sort mail quicker. I never thought of it that way. Okay.
But what about UK postcodes?
Okay.
This obviously goes much further back than the US, and London was the first town in the UK to be divided up into postal districts starting as early as 1857.
Wow.
Other large cities caught on, and places like Liverpool and Manchester were divided up into postal zones by the 1860s.
Wow. Wow, it's amazing how long ago, like hundreds of years ago, like the UK was already figuring all this stuff out.
This continued on a city-by-city basis for many years until 1934, when the post office in the UK decided to introduce numbered districts or short postcodes in every town in the UK they felt was large enough to justify it.
Okay.
So this gave us about 10 more areas, including Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds, and Sheffield. They tried to encourage people to use the postcode with their own marketing. It was a bit more dry than Mr. Zip, but the slogan was, "For speed and certainty, always use a postal district number on your letters and notepad."
There was a time when all of this stuff was so new, they actually had to advertise it to you that you should use your postal code. That's interesting. It's also interesting now that she points this out. Like, in the UK, there's so many postal codes that are very, very specific to your exact street. If we tried to do that here in America, back in the day, hundreds of years ago, if we tried to do that, America is so much bigger than the UK. It might have just been too much of a headache, like impossible logistically. There would be, like, I don't even know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of individual postal codes because of how many streets and neighborhoods are in the entire United States. So we could probably do it now with like computers and stuff, but this does make more sense that this was the system that the UK created, because the UK is smaller and you could kind of manage this system a little bit easier in a sense. There's not as many addresses, you could say.
So there you go. It got the point across, but less dancing involved. But the modern postcode that we know it today in the UK was a product of the 1950s, when electromechanical sorting machines allowed for more efficient and machine sorting. The post office needed a town to essentially experiment with using the modern postcodes, and Norwich was the winner. And why Norwich? because they already had 8 automatic mail sorting machines in use.
Okay.
This is an interesting pamphlet I found showing Norwich residents more about the postcode and how to use them.
I wonder if because the UK has like more specific information in your postcodes, if the mail gets delivered quicker or sorted faster. I wonder if it's actually logistically faster than mail sorting in the US. Huh.
The experiment turned out to be a big success, and by 1965, it was announced that postal coding was going to be rolled out to the rest of the country.
Huh.
In December of 1970, much of the Christmas mail was postmarked with the message saying, "Remember to use the postal code," and the scheme was fully finished in 1974.
Wow.
Now, just for
1974. Not that long ago, actually. That's amazing how not that long ago. Like, there's a lot of people alive today in the UK who didn't, like, use the modern postal code technology as it is. Wow.
That brings me to the end of today's video.
Okay, and there you have it. That was actually very, very interesting. Very interesting. I went into this, I had no idea about anything about UK postcodes. And now I feel like, which I think is bad now that I think about it. Like, that's just, I'm really glad I can say I know what they look like. I sort of understand, like, what the letters and numbers mean. It's good. That is very good. I am glad I took some time to learn this. This was by Girl Gone London, and I gotta give this a like, because I did like this. That was very well done. Yeah, I have to say, by the end of this, I think I agree with her. I think it's hard to disagree. Like, the UK postcode system does seem just objectively better than the American zip code system, especially now in the modern day with computers and automated mail sorting. Like, we should just have postcodes that are more give you more information and are more specific to your address. And yeah, for a couple reasons, it seems better, actually. And I didn't know that was gonna warp and shape my whole opinion on this just from one video, but there you go. There you have it. I agree. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give this a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on UK postcodes, American zip codes, or anything like that. That'd be interesting to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to the UK and UK culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.